Good evening. My name is Father Rayappa. I'm from India. Today I'm going to uh, talk about the 10 heroes of the natural world. Even you can call it the superstars of the natural world, but I would prefer to call hero or heroes of the natural world or the 10 heroes of the biosphere. Lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, biosphere. Lithosphere is about land, hydrosphere is about water, atmosphere is about air, last biosphere about all life on earth which lives on the surface of the earth is known as the biosphere. So 10 heroes of the biosphere. The first one, the sun, the first hero of the biosphere. Helios, the sun god of the ancient Greeks. Ra, sun god of Egyptians. Surya, the sun god of Aryans, represented the sun to be the giver of life. Egyptian sun god Ra appeared in many myths and legends, and stories about him varied. As the sun god, he rode across the sky in the golden ship, bringing light and warmth to all creatures living on earth. When the sun sets in the evening, he descended to the underworld and brought light and air to the people who dwell there. Each evening, Ra's servants helped him battle his eternal enemy, the mighty snake, Apep, known also as Apopes, who is the symbol of darkness, who tried to swallow. According to one series of myths, Ra first ruled during the Golden Age. Everything saw was perfect, and the sight of such wonders brought tears to his eyes. The tears fell to earth and grew into human beings. The chief center of Ra's cult in ancient Egypt was the city of Heliopolis, the city of the sun. As worship of Ra grew, it challenged the supremacy of all other cults and eventually became a part of them. Ra remained the principal god throughout the history of ancient Egypt. And Egyptian kings claimed to be the sons of Ra in order to link themselves to him. In ancient art, the god is commonly shown with the head of a falcon wearing a shining disc on his head. Everything, all life comes from the sun. It is befitting that we call sun is the first hero of the biosphere. Number two, the leaf, the second hero of biosphere. Leaves provide trees with all their food because they turn sunlight into food energy. The form of leaves is related with all their functions and the environment. In addition to photosynthesis, the leaf also carries out all the other changes and exchanges with the atmosphere. It is through the leaf that the plant breathes and transpires. I should say, it is through the leaf that the planet breathes and transpires. Only leaf can produce food and is known as primary producer. Photosynthesis is how plants use light and water, carbon dioxide, to make sugar. Sugar is created in the green parts of a plant, and every animal on earth depends on it. Without leaf and plant, we would have no food to eat or oxygen to breathe. it is befitting that we call the leaf the second hero of biosphere. Number three, the third hero of biosphere, soil. The soil. We overlook it. We walk all over it, trample it every day, yet we need it like the air we breathe. It's about time that we talk about soil, and certainly about time that we start protecting it. There can be no life without soil. It feeds us, and we are responsible for it. Soil is formed from rocks that decompose slowly by the sun, the wind, and the rain, by animals and plants. In this way, 10 centimeters of fertile soil is created in 2000 long years. Only 10 centimeters in 2 millennia. Soil that we deplete in only for few years for brick making is gone forever. Soil and land issues rarely get our attention or our policymakers. We see the full supermarket shelves and believe that things will stay like this forever. We live on credit at the expense of soils. But they are not inexhaustible. We take out money from a bank account into which we never make any deposits. One day, the account will be empty, our credit overdrawn, and our soils will be gone. In other words, everything is ultimately connected to soils. But there is good news. We have long known that what we must do in order to preserve soils for our children. Let us remember soil is a sensitive living being who wants to be taken care of. It is not a factory. Everyone has a right to soil. This right must be safeguarded by the law, and we cannot afford to bury our livelihood under a layer of asphalt. Now it is up to us. We must open our eyes and find ways to apply our knowledge so we don't end up losing the ground under our feet. You ask soil anything you want, soil will give you. Birth, food, water, gold, silver, diamonds, wood, brick, so on. At last, death. From birth to death, we depend on soil. So befitting that it is soil is the third hero of biosphere. Number four, the fourth hero of biosphere is rock. Rocks are any solid aggregation of minerals. The type of rock in a given region affects soil characteristics and therefore influences the region's plant community. A mineral is any naturally occurring solid element or inorganic compound with a crystal structure, a specific chemical proposition or composition, and distinct physical properties. Rock cycle is a process in which rock and minerals are heated, melted, cooled, and broken down and takes years to be complete. In a way that mineral resources become non-renewable on human time scales. Therefore, we should try to minimize and mitigate the many environmental and social impacts of our mining operations. Rocks of every sort and shape are worn away over time. Weathering is the process which breaks rocks into smaller bits. The soil we depend on comes from the rock. The sacrifice of the rock is soil. Ultimately, rock is the life-giving element on earth. It is fitting that we call rock the fourth hero of biosphere. Number 5, the grass, the fifth hero of biosphere. Rice, wheat, maize, barley, wheat, oats, everything comes from the grass family. Grass supports wide variety of species as a food source, and grass is the spice of biodiversity. Without grass, 90% of life would perish on earth. The name grass covers a multiplicity of plants. Indeed, the grass family is one of the largest in the plant kingdom, containing worldwide about 10,000 different species. Grasses are not, as you might suppose, from the simple character of their leaves, primitive plants, but highly evolved ones. Their flowers are often not recognized as such. Grasses rely on the wind to disturb their pollen. Since they do not need to attract animal pollinators, their flowers have no need to conspicuous or brightly colored. Instead, they are small and drab, with tiny scales instead of petals, and grow in clusters on special tall stems that lift them into the path of the wind. The one condition that grasses require is good light. They cannot grow in the deep shade of a forest, but they can tolerate many other hardships that would cripple off all other kinds of plants. They can withstand not only low rainfall, but also scorching sunshine. They can survive fire, for even though the flames sweeping over them may burn their leaves, the root stock lying close to the surface of the soil is seldom damaged. They can even tolerate regular mutilation by grazing teeth or the blades of a lawn mower. Grass is a enduring survivor. The survival of the fittest. Grass is the best example. So it is fitting that the grass should be called as the fifth hero of biosphere. Number 6, the sixth hero of biosphere is the frog. When it comes to protection, frogs need the most of it right now. Brilliant orange, bright blue, dazzling red, frogs come in an astonishing array of colors. This vivid assortment of hues hints at the remarkable diversity that exists among the frog species inhabiting the globe. From lush rainforests to parched deserts, frogs are found nearly in every environment on Earth, and their survival strategies range from surprising to bizarre. Some 365 million years ago, finned aquatic animals evolved into tetrapods, the first four-legged vertebrates. Over time, this new animal group moved on to land and gave rise to amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Today, frogs and other amphibians live in all but the harshest land environment. But many remain tied to water for development of their eggs and tadpoles. There is evidence that frogs have roamed the earth for more than 200 to 350 million years, at least as long as the dinosaurs. While the lifespan of frogs in the wild are unknown, frogs in captivity have been known to live more than 20 years. There are 4,900 species of frogs worldwide. Scientists continue to search for new ones and estimate that more than 1,000 frog species have yet to be described and discovered. Frog keeps our environment clean. At the same time, he amuses us with this great music. So the frog, the sixth hero of biosphere. Next, seventh hero of biosphere is none other than the bee. Bees have been on this earth for about 25 million years and are ideally adapted to their natural environment. Without bees, the environment would be dramatically diminished. Honeybees are a part of our folklore and are one of only two insect species that are managed to provide us with essential services. Honeybees are the pollinating agents, and United Nations is gearing up to protect the bees as their project for the International Year of Biodiversity. It's already finished, 2010. Indeed, bees are threatened in many ways, from pesticides to habitat loss and degradation. Honeybees are important for pollination of all our fruits and berries and many other vegetable crops. They don't need us, but we certainly need of them. Be the seventh hero of biosphere. Number 8, the eighth hero of biosphere is the cell, the human cell or the living cell. Cells they are all equal to all life on earth. The cells of any organism, however, demonstrate all the characteristics of life, a lifespan that includes a living beginning, growth, development, reproduction, and death. The constant use of matter and energy, response to changing internal and external conditions, and the presence of DNA. Although multicellular organisms can have diverse cell types, all cells have certain parts in common. All cells are bound by a cell membrane and contain cytoplasm, which is where the cell parts lie. The nucleus of the cell contains the heredity molecule DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, which is also found in all cells. And all cells contain ribosome, known as RNA, which are so tiny that they can't be seen in the cell. Ribosomes are structures that are responsible for constructing proteins, the molecules, and carry out the instructions contained in DNA. All living organisms are composed of one or more cells. The cell is the unit of organization of all life on earth. That is the foundation. That is the starting point. When we were born, the first one is a small cell. Zygote became a multicell and then became multicell, and here we are. Started in one cell, which is called zygote. So all life starts in a cell. So cell, it's fitting that we call him. He is the eighth hero of biosphere. Next comes number 9, ozone layer, the ninth hero of biosphere. The ozone layer is a deep layer in the stratosphere encircling the earth that has large amounts of ozone in it. The layer shields the entire earth from much of the harmful ultraviolet radiation that comes from the sun. Interestingly, it is also this ultraviolet radiation that forms the ozone in the first place. Ozone is a special form of oxygen made up of 3 oxygen atoms rather than the usual 2 oxygen atoms. It is usually formed when some type of radiation or electrical discharge separates the 2 atoms in an oxygen molecule, which can then individually recombine with other oxygen molecules to form ozone, which is known as O3. The stratospheric ozone, which protects us from the sun, is good and is a hero. The ozone layer is the 9th hero of biosphere. The last, number 10, 10th hero of biosphere, magnetic field. The magnetic field of the earth is generated in its molten iron core As the earth gradually cools down, slowly moving convection currents keep stirring the core, and this motion is sufficient to generate the geomagnetic field by dynamo action. This is possible because the iron core of the earth is electrically conducting. As the convection currents in the core circulate, they move the magnetic field around, and these changes, called the secular variation, are now continually monitored by satellites orbiting the earth. Hot fluid does not simply rise, it can travel in a spiral motion, and this type of motion is particularly good at generating magnetic fields. The magnetic field of the earth also undergoes reversal, that is, the field collapses and then rebuilds itself with the opposite polarity. This has happened many times in the past, as can be measured by studying the magnetic properties of rocks laid down in the distant past, known as paleomagnetism. The large-scale field only changes slowly on a 1,000 years time scale, but the field strength has fallen substantially over the last few thousand years, so another reversal may be certainly imminent. Birds and fish use magnetic field to reach their migratory destination. Experts know birds and fish possess an internal compass. Scientists believe the tiny magnets in the beak or mouth wired to the nervous system detect lines of magnetic force. There is strong evidence that upper beak magnetosensors were used by pigeons. Scientists have also located candidate magnetite based magnetoreceptor cells in the nose of fish and traced the magnetically responsive nerve to the area the candidate receptor cells are found. The positions where fin whales are sighted during the migration seasons are statistically associated with geomagnetic field intensity patterns. Responses to magnetic intensity theoretically permit animals to navigate effectively over long distance. Nonetheless, magnetic field, it is befitting that we call it the 10th hero of biosphere. That completes the 10 heroes. That completes the superstars, the 10 superstars. Without them, nothing is possible. Nothing is possible. Everything will be in oblivion, total darkness. Nothing. Nothing. It is annihilation. That is the proper word. Annihilation. So everything is possible because of these 10 heroes of the biosphere. Please say a prayer for them. Thank you.